7:30. The alarm clock rang on the phone, which woke up a young couple sleeping in an embrace. The girl got up first and tried to sneak into the bath before the young man fully woke up. When he saw Amanda, he remembered the scenes from the previous night and was clearly puzzled. Without knocking, Thomas entered and grabbed the girl painfully. He accused her of taking advantage of his highly intoxicated state and getting into his bed. Amanda was confused, but the guy continued. He remembered their first wedding night, when she pretended to be innocent, and the first thing she told him was not to bother him. 2 months have passed since then. Thomas was interested in why she changed her mind. Or maybe the girl always wanted this, but did not admit it. The young husband could not understand anything. Amanda said that she wants to play in a television series called Until the Sky is Empty and the Earth Grows Old. And although she debuted a long time ago, she never got decent roles. And since her husband is in show business, he can negotiate. And last night was his reward. Thomas couldn't wrap his head around what he heard. He released her and asked if he understood correctly that she was making a deal with him. As he left, he added that if Amanda Baker wanted to play with him, then he would play with her. When Thomas left, the girl gave vent to feelings that she did not show in front of him. She was hurt by the fact that he believed that she spent the night with him for the sake of the role. But she'd rather think that way than find out the truth about her true feelings for him, about the fact that she has been in love with him for 13 years. Meanwhile, Walker got ready and went to work. In the car, the assistant reminded me about filming in Rome, which would begin the day after tomorrow, and asked whether to take a plane ticket for tomorrow before lunch or in the evening, and received the answer that it was for today. Also, I instructed to call the director of the series. He wants to introduce someone to the cast. The young man left on the next flight. 3 months later, Amanda and Betty arrived at the banquet. The girl still didn't know whether she got the role in the series thanks to Thomas or not. The friend was sure that Walker would make a star out of his wife. He would give her leading roles. But the young wife hastened to warn her interlocutor that her marriage was a secret for the others, especially since they were forced to get married. And they don't even have feelings for each other. Betty Brooks was still confident that Amanda was in a good position. The girl did not understand what happened, because at school Thomas treated his current wife well, but after university they became like strangers. Baker herself didn't know the reason. She only remembered that terrible conversation, in which Walker said that it doesn't matter who the one he likes is. Either way, it's not Amanda. She herself is very interested in finding out who they were talking about then, and what happened that influenced his attitude towards her. In this silence of the night, the doors opened loudly, and the one they were talking about entered. The girls did not expect to see him here, because he was supposed to be in Rome. All the fair sex looked at the king of the screen with admiration, but he did not pay attention to anyone. 2 of those present discussed his path, how patiently he walked towards his goal on his own, and for 6 years now he has been the king of the screen and a true legend. They said they remembered discussing him on the internet. 3 years ago, he bought a film corporation that was on the verge of bankruptcy. And who would have thought that in 3 years, he would be able to raise it to the largest in the country? The discussion about the head of the corporation continued. The girls considered him not just handsome, smart, and a great actor, but also an ideal husband. The main character witnessed this conversation. The interlocutor said that no one had heard anything about his personal life. Even if he is not married, there is probably a girl who will get such an ideal husband. A friend added fuel to the fire by asking how it could be that Thomas returned to town and didn't even call his wife. Amanda quietly replied that she didn't know, and silently remembered their last conversation on that fateful morning. When the guy left, he told her if she wanted to play with him, then he would play with her. Walker sat down at a table directly behind the girls. His wife heard the man approaching, also expressing his surprise at the sudden appearance of the star. She decided to leave the premises, telling Betty that she needed to go to the restroom. But at that moment, the young man rose sharply from his seat and stood in her way. She looked at him intently, but it was as if he was looking through her. Lowering her eyes, Amanda greeted Mr. Walker. He looked at her silently, and he left without saying a word, following the street to the car. As soon as they drove away, it started to rain. The main character, looking at the drops flowing down the glass, recalled that rainy day when he and Amanda were hiding from the rain under the eaves. Suddenly, he gave the command to the driver to stop the car. He asked what happened, and he hastened to add that today, They have a flight to Rome, and there are less than 2 hours left before departure. The head of the corporation ordered to replace the tickets for tomorrow morning, saying that he would not go anywhere today. Amanda also left the event and was on her way home, and the rain brought back memories for her. Just like the young man, she remembered their first meeting. It was raining in the same way, and they stood under the eaves, hiding from it. It was on that day that she first fell in love. The door opened and he walked in, the one she was thinking about. Ignoring his wife, Thomas walked into the room. When she entered the bedroom, he was already lying on the bed. His eyes were closed. She did not know whether he was sleeping or pretending to avoid their meeting. The girl quietly went to the mirror to comb her hair. Seeing the reflection of her husband, she admired him while looking at him. Not daring to approach the young man, Amanda stroked his reflection. Afterwards, she brought a healthy teddy bear and quietly said that she bought it specifically so that the incident would not happen again. Having placed the toy in the middle of the bed, the girl took a place on the other side. Both lay facing away from each other. None of them could sleep. Thomas got up and went to the window. It was still raining there. He took out a cigarette and lit it. What surprised the girl, because he has the image of a non-smoker. He quit a long time ago. I wonder when he started smoking again. Finally, fatigue took over, and Amanda managed to fall asleep. But suddenly she woke up in pain. Someone grabbed her hand. Opening her eyes, the girl saw her angry husband, who was holding her hand and accusing her of another attempt to pester him, taking advantage of the fact that he was sleeping. Thomas said that filming of the series had ended, and she apparently decided to knock out the second role with her body. But the confused main character justified herself, saying that she had no such thought. The fictitious husband called her a first-class hypocrite. How can she say that there was no thought, if last time it was she who took the initiative, taking advantage of the fact that he was drunk, and then stated that this was payment for his role in the series? The main character quietly said that today she really didn't have any thoughts of seducing him. She was just sleeping, and she doesn't know how it happened that her hand fell on him. Throwing her hand away casually, the king of the screen told her to control herself. And of course, she can use her body to achieve her selfish goals. But this does not mean that he will want to sleep with her. The girl was left alone in the room. The bed still held the warmth of his body and his scent. She was in unbearable pain. These terrible words hurt greatly, but she still continued to love him with all her heart. Amanda cried, unable to calm down. She was interested in only one question. Why everything had changed so much between them. After all, when it all began, it was completely different. She recalled the day when she and her sister were returning from school and saw a familiar boy who was not alone and called out to him. He looked back and saw Amanda Baker and her sister Grace. Approaching them, he introduced his fellow traveler, saying that this was his older brother, whose name was Thomas Walker. The main character timidly greeted her new acquaintance. And while Amanda and Thomas stood awkwardly in silence, Christian continued to introduce his brother to the Baker sisters, the eldest smilingly saying that in the future they would go to the same high school with him. The main character did not stop thinking about the boy, writing notebooks with his name. So that means he's Christian's brother. But he doesn't seem to remember their first meeting. No matter what she was doing, all her thoughts were about him. The girl repeated his name again and again. One day, Grace asked her sister what direction she had chosen. And when I heard about the natural sciences, I was extremely surprised, because before that we had talked about the humanities. But Amanda, laughing, said that she was thinking about the future. In fact, her choice was due to the fact that she learned from a friend that her beloved was going to study the humanities, and the girl expected to be in the same class with him after being assigned. During their conversation, Thomas watched them. The main character felt his gaze on her. Looking out the window, she saw the guys heading to the sports ground. Without hesitation, Amanda grabbed Grace, calling her to run together, which once again surprised her. Her sister had never been a sports fan before. Pretending to run, the girl kept glancing in the direction of the boys playing basketball, and finally they noticed them. Thomas followed the long-haired schoolgirl with his eyes. The school announced a beauty contest for girls, and when the vote box reached the brothers, the eldest lowered the piece of paper with the name. Which, of course, said Amanda Baker. To get into the humanities class, the main character began to study the necessary subjects. The day of the exam has arrived. There is half an hour left until the papers are due. The results are posted. What a joy. The girl entered class 1. A happy Christian walked down the corridor and congratulated Amanda, saying that they were now in the same class. But Amanda was interested in what grade Thomas was in. The friend's answer was unexpected. He said that his brother had been acting strange lately and ended up in grade 3. Meanwhile, in the new class, only the girls were happy and bombarded the handsome boy with love letters, while Thomas himself was tired of excessive attention that he did not need. The main character felt bad and went out into the corridor. The sharp pain made her legs give way, and she would have collapsed on the floor if someone had not supported her with an arm. She turned around and saw him. The young man took her to the hospital and stayed with her. Despite the painful sensations, the girl was happy from the care shown and the fact that her beloved boy was nearby. But then some schoolgirl shamelessly burst into the room and headed towards Thomas, who was sitting by the hospital bed, disturbing the serene peace and quiet of Amanda, who did not understand who this girl was to Thomas Walker. Finally, the uninvited guest left, and again they were left alone. But the main character no longer felt the former feeling of happiness. After thinking a little, she made up her mind and asked if that girl was his friend. And she immediately began to scold herself for this, because now he would think that she was nosy and was sticking her nose into things that weren't her own. But Thomas reacted completely calmly and gave a negative answer. He talked about an activity planned in their class, for which the two of them were responsible. Now she felt good and calm again. After staying in the hospital for some more time, Amanda felt better and was allowed to go home. On the street, she thanked the young man for his care, and she handed over money for medicine. Thomas, seeing a wallet full of bills, realized that the girl was not from a poor family. He left silently without taking anything, and leaving the bewildered girl. On the way, he met the same classmate who joyfully called out to him. Without stopping, the guy told her not to talk to him anymore, which displeased the obsessive schoolgirl, but he didn't care, because he was immersed in his memories of childhood. When he once again came to his father's house, he overheard a conversation among the servants who were discussing Mr. Thompson's one-time drunken affair with a starlet who later gave birth. And now this child is a mark of shame and recklessness on the master for the rest of his life. He did not want this boy to be born. And if it were not for the grandfather who dreamed of a grandson, then no one would remember him, much less invite him to the holidays. Only Christian always rejoiced at his arrival, and this time he joyfully told his parents that his brother had come. Thomas quietly said hello, turning to his dad, but instead of a return greeting, he caught the cold look of his father and the dissatisfied face of his wife, who began to ask in a raised tone who gave this boy the right to call her husband Dad. She shouted that his mother gave her consent so that he would not enter the Thompson family, and he would never be able to inherit the property of their family. Christian is the only heir. The boy listened silently and did not understand what all this had to do with it. He never laid claim to the inheritance and does not intend to do so. There is very little money left on the card. Arriving at school, the teacher called him and said that the guy was noticed by a talent agent. Of course, it's very cool to be an artist, but working in parallel with his studies can negatively affect his academic performance. And as far as she knows, he plans to go to University A. The main character was aware that it would be difficult, but he needed money. The next evening, returning home very late, he was met by his grandmother, who was in a hurry to feed her grandson. She was worried that Thomas began to come later and later. Perhaps the money that his mother left would not be enough for several years. In addition, her boy looked very sad, and she wanted to help him, but he said that he would find a way out himself. When leaving, Grandma sighed sadly, saying that everything would have been different if he had not entered this expensive school. Today is Amanda's birthday. Christian thanked Thomas for ordering the black swan cake, otherwise Grace would start swearing. The main character gave the cake to his brother and returned his card. Having looked at the receipt, he was surprised. He asked the departing Thomas why the guy did not use the card when buying the cake, but received no answer. And he was left wondering where his brother got the money from, because the cake was very expensive. The holiday was in full swing. The guy overheard the girls talking. They were discussing who was planning to go to which university. The main character said that she liked Shanghai and would like to study there. When the brothers were left alone, the younger one noticed that before Thomas had no desire to come to such parties, but today, for some reason, he was even in high spirits. Then Grace asked Christian where his brother was going to go. He told him about University A, the same place he was going to. Amanda was glad to know this information. But her joy ended when she realized how difficult it is to become a student at the most famous national university. It is not the same as an assignment exam, and she decided from today to devote a lot of time to study, the only way she can be closer to him, and no matter what she has to go through for this. The exams were passed. Christian looked at the results and praised his friend. She passed with dignity, and they had almost the same number of points. The girl impatiently asked how Thomas passed, and the young man proudly replied that his brother was incredibly cool. He had the highest scores. The heroine was in seventh heaven. They all entered University A. The friend looked tenderly at the girl's genuine joy and asked why the silly girl was so happy. She quietly replied that her dream had finally come true. The long-awaited day of departure has arrived. Future students with suitcases are heading off to their new student life. Brother Christian is already there. But why isn't Thomas there? Aren't they going together? Amanda felt the ground swim under her feet when the young man said that his brother did not go to Uni A, but would go to Shanghai. The main character was already at the station, from where he should go to Shanghai. He recalled his conversation with his brother before leaving, when he found out that Amanda had entered not Shanghai, but University A, and now she and Christian would study together. At the same time, Chris was telling his friend that during the summer holidays, his brother was noticed by a talent agent, and that it was more convenient for him to get to filming from Shanghai than from Beijing. The day that they had been waiting for became the most dreary and sad for the lovers. For him, the news sounded like a bolt from the blue, and she thought that if after so much effort nothing came of it, maybe they were not destined to be together. One day the friends met and decided to go to Shanghai during the holidays to meet Thomas. Amanda was the most happy about this offer. Finally, she would be able to see him. The guys arrived. They were already met by a friend. The main character heard Grace Baker say that today they would only go out once with Christian's money anyway. He had more than enough of it. The cheerful company went shopping, trying on expensive things, but Thomas was not having fun. He felt out of place. He stepped aside and said on the phone that he agreed to take the place of the replacement that was offered to him, despite the danger of filming. After which, he came up to say goodbye to the guests. Amanda asked that Thomas treat everyone to lunch the next time they met. He, of course, agreed. This is how 4 years passed. Friends traveled from city to visit each other. The number of tickets indicated the number of their meetings. And then came the last one, when Amanda flew to her sister. But since she did not warn about her visit, Grace was not in the city. On the phone, she said that she was now in France with a classmate. The main character did not know where to go. There were no more acquaintances here, and her sister suggested going to Shanghai to see Thomas. She liked the idea, but what reason could she come up with for the meeting? And then she discovered that there was no wallet. It was gone. Never in her life had she been so happy that her wallet had been stolen. After calling Thomas and telling her what happened to her, she heard a concerned voice on the other end who told her to stay put and promised to come right away. After hanging up, Amanda again mentally thanked the thief. The young man didn't have to wait long. He came running without even changing the clothes he was wearing while filming the film at the time of the call. Seeing him, the girl was worried that because of her Thomas had to leave the filming, but he reassured her, saying that he would return back as soon as he found a place where she could stay. On the way, the main character said that her identity card had also been stolen, and she would not be able to rent a hotel room. Then Walker took her to his apartment. The young actor showed the guest where the shower was, left food, and promised to return soon. When leaving, he said that he would go to the student dormitory to spend the night. But Amanda, citing fear of being alone, asked him to be with her at night. The guy promised not to leave. At night, he could not sleep. Sitting on his bed, he admired the sleeping girl, after which he gently kissed her on the cheek, trying not to wake her. Thomas did not sleep all night. It was the first time they spent the night together. He thought about his great love for the one who is so close, but does not even know how long he has loved her. The next day, returning to Beijing, where she met with a friend she talked about yesterday, and Betty confidently stated that Walker liked Amanda, which is why nothing happened between them at night. The guy didn't want to harm her. The heroine has a glimmer of hope. Maybe he really likes her at least a little. Otherwise, why would he leave work for her? And then she decided to write a letter in which she confessed her feelings. Her friend happily supported her. As she sealed the envelope, the girl remembered how at school Thomas would throw love letters in the trash without even reading them, and hoped that her letter would not suffer the same fate. She was not going to give up and decided to give the letter to Chris so that he could evaluate it with a male gaze. One day, Grace's parents called Grace for a serious conversation where they informed her of her duty to marry Christian Thompson since their families were closely connected, and Christian was the only son and quite decent. No arguments that the young people were just friends, and she had no feelings for the one they wanted to marry her to were not taken into account. The girl thought about how she could avoid marriage, maybe go to study abroad for 10 years or even more. She heard the voice of her sister, who turned to their friend with a request to help, but only on the condition of keeping everything secret. Opening the door a crack, she saw Amanda asking Christian to listen to the love letter and tell him how well it was written. It said that she dreams of when they will be together. 5 years ago, she learned what love is. She doesn't need anyone else. All this time, from the moment of their first meeting, her actions were aimed at getting closer to him. Continuing the letter, she said how every night in her dreams she saw them together, and in the depths of her soul she always hoped for his reciprocal love. At the end, she wrote that she would always love him, and the signature. The guy listened and, smiling, asked if their baby Amanda really fell in love so much, and who was this lucky guy. But the heroine interrupted him, wanting to quickly hear his opinion about what he heard. Immediately, Christian became serious and thoughtful. He said that the last phrase needs to be changed, and instead of "I will always love you," write, "I will always love only you." The girl in love was delighted with such an important addition. Grace didn't know who these lines were addressed to, but for some reason she recorded the entire conversation on a voice recorder. And then it dawned on her that this entry could help avoid an unwanted marriage. She came to the mother of her future husband and let her listen. The woman undoubtedly recognized the voices of her son and Amanda. Sister Baker asked the lady not to talk about who gave her the recording because the lovers told her their secret and asked her to keep it a secret. Since Christian is in love with the youngest, the woman promised to talk to the bride's parents so that Grace would not marry her son. This is exactly what the girl wanted. In her mind, she apologized to Amanda that her older sister had sold her out, but even those apologies were not sincere. Flowers straight from France, a favorite cake, and a card that says, "Long life, Amanda." Thomas gave all this to the assistant and ordered to take Miss Baker, whose birthday was today, while he himself was going to arrive in person immediately after the end of the banquet. Walker has gone through a lot in these 4 years, and today at the film festival he will receive the second best award, and from this day on he can confidently say that he has achieved success in his career. And all this in order to become better and stronger. His dream was to give a better world to Amanda Baker. The award ceremony ended, and Thomas came to congratulate his beloved. He was happy and in pleasant anticipation, walked up to the gate and noticed something familiar out of the corner of his eye. Near the trash can lay a bouquet and a cake that was intended for the birthday girl. The note was torn. While the young man was sitting in the pouring rain trying to understand what had happened and who had thrown away his gift, the butler came out and said that the lady wanted to talk to the guy about Miss Baker Jr. When he entered the room, the hostess immediately moved on to the question that interested her, whether it was true that he was in love with Amanda. In a commanding tone, she told him to leave the girl alone, because if he didn't know, Amanda Baker was her son's fiancée. And this is not only because there is a long-standing agreement between their families, but also because the feelings of the young people are mutual. Again, this terrible feeling was like a bolt from the blue, but the woman continued to finish, as if not seeing his condition. She said that for him, an illegitimate child, all roads were closed, and what kind of love could he talk about? After all, Amanda is the daughter of the Baker family. Despite the fact that her parents are no longer there, she is still a respected daughter, and she has an inheritance, and shares that this degenerate will never see in his life. But Christian is completely different. He is the successor of the Thompson family and a suitable candidate for Amanda. And now she demands that the illegitimate son forget about her son's fiancée, especially since he owes his life to Christian, if not for her boy, who donated his bone marrow. This unfortunate man would have died long ago. She remembered the day when his mother came to their house, begging to save her son. In exchange, she gave her word that Thomas would never claim the Thompson family's inheritance. The main character recalled how, out of everyone, only his younger brother was always kind to him and treated him like a relative. On New Year's Day, the relatives gave the young gentleman red envelopes, but he sincerely did not understand why his brother had no gifts. Having heard no answer, he threw away his envelopes without hesitation, saying if Thomas doesn't have them, then he doesn't need them either. The boy was touched by Chris's action. They had been very friendly since childhood. The younger brother has always been kind and open, and now he was watching with delight the festive fireworks and did not notice that a burning firecracker was flying right in his face. Thomas, seeing the danger, put his hand out, wanting to prevent misfortune. Everyone rushed to the crying young master, surrounding him with care, and the eldest got it again, this time for not watching. Mrs. Thompson emphasized that her son had always treated him well. Would he really take his love away by interfering in his relationship with Amanda, as his mother once did? Leaving the house in the same pouring rain, the young man saw 3 friends returning, Christian carrying Amanda on his back. From the outside, they seemed quite happy. But in fact, the birthday girl was upset that Thomas did not come to congratulate her, and therefore drank too much. The young man, trying to defuse the situation, said that it was okay. Then the screen star would take them all to a chic restaurant. Thomas watched the happy young people and thought about one thing. All this time, he tried to become a better person in order to be worthy of her love. But no matter how much time passes, she still will not love him. And how he didn't immediately understand anything, because from the very beginning, she moved from the 3rd group to the 1st, and then exchanged her beloved Shanghai for Beijing, and all this for the sake of Christian. The main character has long considered him his younger brother, and if he is the person Amanda loves, then he is ready to forget about his feelings for her. And if someone asks who she is to him, his answer will be simple: just an ordinary girl for whom he does not have any deep feelings. After another call to Thomas, Amanda had the feeling that he was deliberately avoiding her. Betty asked why such conclusions were drawn, and her friend told how the guy constantly refuses to meet with her, citing various circumstances, and does not allow her to come to him. The girls decided that due to his growing popularity, the actor now had many fans, and he clearly liked someone else. Seeing her friends suffering, Betty said that there was no point in sitting and just killing herself. It was better to go and clarify everything before the actor left Beijing. At this time, a conversation took place between the brothers. Thomas asked if it was true that there were close ties between the Baker and Thompson families. Christian confirmed and said that his marriage would not be for love, but only to benefit their family, and it did not matter who the wife would be. The main character briefly asked who he would choose, older or younger, to which the brother replied, "Of course, it's Amanda." Hearing this, Thomas turned around and left. He was not interested in anything else. Christian continued, saying that Grace is too noisy and Amanda is sweet, but Amanda has a lover, which he definitely is not. But turning around, the young man discovered that his brother was no longer nearby, and that he had not heard his last words. The youngest of the sisters approached him and asked if Brother Thomas had seen him. Chris assumed that he was drinking somewhere nearby, and he turned out to be right. Coming closer, Amanda gathered her courage and timidly asked her lover to answer who he liked. Without even turning around, the young man replied that it doesn't matter who he likes. And then, looking intently at her, he finished by saying that in any case, it was not her. In the morning, he woke up with a headache. His brother was already in the room, who greeted him and said that he got really drunk yesterday. Then he asked if something had happened and why Amanda was looking for him. Thomas didn't remember anything. Christian asked what they were talking about. Leaving, the girl looked very upset. But no matter how hard he tried to remember at least something from last night, nothing came of it. Having admitted to his brother that he did not remember, he was worried about what he could say to the person dear to him. How painful it was for Amanda to find out that the man she had loved for so many years, and still loves, never reciprocated her feelings. Fortunately, he did not say this publicly. She definitely would not have endured such shame. The girl took the unsent letter of confession and put it in the box, which she called the locked first love. Apparently, this was the end of their meetings. Or it's not the end. Christian was involved in a high-speed accident. Having learned about the misfortune, Amanda immediately ran to the hospital, asking in tears how this could happen. But the guy was unconscious. The newspapers were full of scandalous headlines. Some said that the heir to the Thompson family had been involved in an accident while intoxicated, others that the shares were in danger of collapsing, and others talked about a meeting of directors where the issue of deprivation of rights would be decided. The mistress met Amanda in the hall and said she wanted to talk to her. She opened the door of the room, inviting the girl to enter. A young man was already waiting for them there. The heroine saw him and couldn't believe her eyes. She rushed to him with tears of joy, saying that she no longer hoped that brother Christian would wake up. But he was alive. Amanda kept saying how happy she was that he was okay, and then he took off his wig. And only now she realized that this was not her friend Chris, and Thomas Walker, the same one with whom they parted for the last time after an unpleasant conversation. While the young people stood in silence, Mrs. Thompson said that everything was going very well, since even Amanda had not noticed anything. Turning to the woman, the heroine asked to explain what was the matter, and she said that her son is alive, but the doctor does not know when he will come out of the coma. Christian is the only successor, and this incident led to the fact that the board of directors wants to withdraw the funds, so the only way to stabilize everything. The girl still didn't understand anything, but the woman continued to introduce the matter. Christian and Thomas are each other's half-brothers. Although they are not completely, they are 80% similar. The Thompson family will make a statement that the young master woke up, but he still had a burn on his face. Then the elder brother will glue the scar, and then they will pass off a lie as the truth. But a girl from a rich family doesn't want to marry a disfigured guy, so they need her help. She needs to marry Thomas, who is posing as the heir to the Thompson family. A conversation took place between the future spouses in which the main character promised not to interfere in Amanda's life, and no one would know about their relationship, to which the girl replied that their marriage was fictitious, and therefore they would not have any relationship. The young man told her to remember her words. To himself, he thought that he had no illusions about this marriage, knows that he is only a temporary replacement, and as soon as Christian wakes up, he will leave the stage. Miss Thompson emphasized that no one is forcing him to help them, and the decision is his own. From the very beginning, she said that all he had to do was play good spouses with Amanda. Only under this pretext can he be close to his beloved, and this is a gift from heaven. He knows that everyone in that family hates him, but he does not do this because of them, but just to be close to Amanda. Even if you have to experience hatred, it doesn't matter. The main character thought about her dream of marrying Thomas. And although for everyone she will be considered the wife of Christian Thompson, for her this is marriage, a chance to be close to her first and only love. She dreamed that from that day on their paths would never diverge. She was sure that this chance had been sent to her by heaven, and she just needed to grab it in order to stop treating each other like strangers. But thinking back to that night again, she understood. No matter what she does, Thomas will always remain an unattainable dream. He actually said that it doesn't matter who he likes. It's not her anyway. Betty, seeing her friend's depressed state, asked what happened. It felt like a black cat had run between the young people. Amanda sadly replied that nothing had happened. It was just that 5 months had passed since their wedding, and the number of their conversations did not exceed 3 times. The enterprising girl advised her to take advantage of the marriage and talk to her husband about the role, and then asked why the heroine did not take advantage of the huge inheritance that her parents left her. She said that you need to become not just a wife, but also a lover. After the night spent, you can ask for anything. Amanda replied that Thomas was filming in Rome, and she was not going to rush there headlong to get him into bed. Betty was surprised by her friend's ignorance about the return of her husband, who had been in the city the day before yesterday. Hadn't he come home all these days? Although the young wife was also at a loss, she said out loud that they had an agreement not to interfere in each other's affairs. Betty recalled conversations that upon his return, the young actor was hospitalized with a temperature of 40. Upon hearing this news, Amanda felt uneasy at heart. That day, upon arriving at the meeting, he suddenly felt ill. His condition suddenly became critical. He was taken to the hospital, but he screamed, not wanting to stay, and after being examined, he ran away. Without listening to her friend, Amanda jumped up and ran. She remembered how Christian talked about how his older brother hated hospitals and no matter what happened, would never stay there for treatment. She began to think where Thomas could be at such a moment and rushed by car to his estate in the mountains. Surely he is here. Having opened the front door slightly, the girl called him by name, but no one responded. The house was dark. Having gone up to the second floor, he was lying in the bedroom. How scared she was when she saw him. She wasn't even sure that he was alive. Amanda rushed to him, calling him by name, but in response there was silence. Placing my hand on my forehead, I immediately felt an intense heat. Hoping to find some medicine in her purse, she dumped the entire contents onto the bed. The girl tried to give the patient something to drink, but everything was unsuccessful. This means that he won't be able to swallow the pill, but what can he do? His condition is critical. It is now late at night. They are outside the city, and the nearest hospital is several hours away. And he has such a strong fever that it hurts him. She got the idea to put the medicine in her mouth and give it to him. That's what she did, because there were no other options. Taking the opportunity, she kissed him. Thomas felt a familiar sensation, and in his delirium, he remembered where it came from. Again, childhood, in which he himself, not knowing at what age, had become accustomed to being alone. He survived contempt, injury, illness, but he never let them know about it. And here's that day 5 years ago when he was going to fulfill his dream, but instead he learned about the upcoming wedding of Amanda and his younger brother. Then it was exactly the same. He locked himself in his room alone. With a strong fever, I lay there for 7 days until I woke up. There was a lot of spam on the phone and one message from Amanda in which she wrote that she saw him at the awards ceremony. He looked amazing. It was at that moment that an impenetrable darkness arose in his heart. You can't even count how many times she appeared in his dreams, and here she is again, even though this was just a dream. And when he woke up, everything would disappear forever. But now Thomas wanted this dream to last forever. The main character felt a return kiss. Thomas put his arm around her and pulled her towards him. He stood up. His eyes were open, but he still did not respond or react to her words. The girl realized that he was unconscious, and only in this state could he touch her. And being conscious, he neglects it. And when he wakes up, everything will happen again. Amanda lay next to her beloved and thought that only in her dreams could she tell him about her feelings. It's incredible to me that from the age of 13 until today, when she is already 26, she carries within herself the love for him. She gave all the most beautiful years of a young girl to him. Taking the phone, Amanda took a photo together. Yes, now they are so close to each other that she can touch him. But in fact, the girl feels that every day they are moving away from each other more and more, and this distance cannot be reduced in a lifetime. But now he is nearby, lying hugging her, and there is nothing more important than this. In the morning, when the heroine had already gotten out of bed, she heard Thomas's voice. He asked who allowed her to enter. Looking at her intently, he asked if there was anything between them last night. Amanda said that nothing happened. She only came to give him medicine after learning about his illness. The young man jumped out of bed, grabbed the girl, and demanded to tell her what she wanted from him. Last time she needed a role, but now what is her desire? Amanda silently looked at the guy, which infuriated him even more. He began accusing her of the fact that as soon as she found out about the villa, she immediately jumped up and don't let him say that it was only for the sake of the pill. And then she cared all night, and was it really not in order to get something from him? Is it possible that she came without any bad thoughts? The main character said that she had an audition 2 days ago, but didn't pass. The cast for this year's hit is very strong. Filming has not yet begun, but everything is already known. The main female role has been taken, but she is ready for the second one. And if he wants to repay her kindness, then let him give her a second female role. The king of the screen, although he said a bunch of nasty things, hoped in his heart that Amanda had not rushed to him at night for selfish reasons. But upon hearing confirmation of his words, he threw her out the door. The girl picked up her purse and headed to the car, and Thomas looked at her from the window. And he reminded himself that he was just a replacement for Christian, and sooner or later the day would come when all this would end. The phone rang. Thomas's voice was on the phone, but why was he speaking so formally, using his first and last name? He said that next week she would join the film crew of the series Conquering Time as a second actress. In the same formal manner, Amanda thanked Mr. Walker, saying that she already knew about the news. There was silence on the other end. Did he hang up? But no, the voice continued, saying that Miss Baker must change her identity. Otherwise, the series will have to be changed. Having received the role, the girl did not experience any joy. On the contrary, she thought that she was probably the only one who was rejected after bed. And it seems that she is the only wife who found out her husband's number after 6 months of marriage. The first day of filming arrived. Betty said that the investment in the film is incredibly large. The guest actors are world-class. But yesterday, at the opening scene, the main supporting actor did not show up. It seems that his name is being kept secret. I wonder who it could be. From the side, they watched the meeting of colleagues. A friend brought Amanda up to date. It turns out that this is actress Jessica Harris, who was originally supposed to be the second actress. But Miss Baker suddenly appeared, and she was moved to 3rd place. Betty added in a whisper that Jessica was very vindictive, and her friend should be more careful. Harris walked up to them and greeted Amanda with a sweet smile. Brooks warned about the hypocrisy of this person and about her good connections here. The main character understood that her competitor already hated her deep down, but following her example, she responded with mutual, feigned cuteness. Gradually, the rest of the cast began to arrive, including the leading male role and the girl, winner of the award for Best Performance, who will also play the main character in this film. The leading actors are already in place, but the second actor is still not there. Is he really some kind of celebrity too? Amanda was no less interested in who her partner would be. At that moment, they heard a voice greeting Mr. Walker. It turns out that the second actor will be the king of the screen, Thomas Walker. It is not surprising that the information was kept secret. This is an absolute sensation. Betty's voice brought Amanda out of oblivion. She asked why she froze, because the producer was calling her. Mr. Ray, saying that all those present should cooperate with each other, introduced the performer of the second role. She said hello, introduced herself, and expressed her joy in working with them. Bernard Ray then approached Thomas, saying that Amanda would be his co-star in the series, after which he ordered the girl not to stand there like a pillar, but to quickly greet Mr. Walker. Amanda said hello and said that she was glad to meet you and looked forward to a successful collaboration. The king of the screen showed complete indifference. The girl thought that she had already shown tact, pretended to be strangers, was forced to talk to him, but he still did not want to pay attention to her. Jessica started ranting about how lucky Amanda was, as a new actress, to immediately get to film with the king of the screen, and she had been in show business for a long time, and she had never had such luck. Immediately, the others picked up her idea and began to whisper that there were rumors about dishonest receipt of the role. A newcomer who quickly climbed to the top. Everything was sewn together with white thread. Amanda was ready to fall through the ground. A man's voice called out to Miss Harris. It was Thomas. He asked if she knew the proverb in show business that says luck is an indicator of strength. The girl said that she still has a lot to learn, and she hopes that the filming will not pull him back. She was pleased, and at the same time incomprehensible at the unexpected help from Thomas. Could it be assumed that somewhere deep down in his soul he did not hate her, and she could take the next step? Bernard came over to find out which university the young actress graduated from. Hearing the name, he said that this was a wonderful establishment, and then asked to exchange numbers so that they could meet on the weekend to consolidate their cooperation. In the hallway, Amanda thanked Thomas for his help, to which she heard the answer about her empty fantasies. He was not going to help her, but simply did not want problems for himself because of her. He hired her for the second role, and therefore, Let her not be afraid that people will talk about getting the role through bed, because he doesn't need these rumors. He left, and at that moment, Betty ran up. She was glad that the story with the discussions ended thanks to Thomas. She, like the main character, did not expect this from him. The friend chirped, saying that the young man cares, like in the old days he must have feelings. But Amanda did not share the joyful mood of her interlocutor. Thomas had just made it clear to her why he stood up for her. At that moment, she herself imagined that he loved her. When he intervened in an unpleasant situation, it seemed to her that she had hit a big jackpot. Her heart was ready to jump out of her chest. Even at that moment, she forgot his cold speech, in which he said that no matter who he liked, in any case, not her. Filming began. Someone was preparing the set. Someone was repeating the words. Thomas read the script while he was being put on makeup. Bernard called Amanda, asked her to sit down, and asked if she had learned the entire script. And when she answered in the affirmative, he praised the young actress. Then he gave orders to bring salted fish and roast beef for her, assuming that the girl had not yet eaten. Thomas looked up from reading and began to watch what was happening. It was clear to him that the producer was trying to get closer to Amanda. Ray first asked if Miss Baker was free tomorrow evening, and then he said that he wanted to recommend her as the face of a well-known cosmetology company, the director of which was his friend. He added that her character and appearance would fit perfectly into the image. Unable to watch his wife being framed any longer, Thomas stood up without waiting for the makeup to finish and approached the talking couple. And turning to Bernard and asked if he had time, he needed to talk to him. Ray told Amanda to sit down and wait while he talked to Mr. Walker. The girl was called out and told that she had lost the script. When Amanda took it, she saw Thomas's signature. The heroine called him, informing him about this. In response, he simply called the number 1001 and hung up. 1001 referred to the numbers that were prepared for the actors. Amanda did not understand whether this meant that he was waiting for her to bring him the script there. Approaching the room, she heard the maids talking. They were discussing the character of the king of the screen. One of them told how she was scared to death when she brought coffee to the room, and the gentleman waved his hand and scalded the producer with it, and she would no longer go to 1001 to do work. After waiting for the staff to leave, Amanda knocked on the door, but there was no answer. She opened the door slightly. Thomas stood in front of her. He stood silently. He looked arrogant. The girl said that she had brought the script and walked to the table to put it there, after which she wanted to quickly leave the room. But right in front of her, the young man slammed the door, preventing her from leaving. He unexpectedly grabbed her hand and asked if she really wanted to become the face of the company so much that she was ready to sleep with anyone just to get benefits. He forced her into the shower and turned on the water. Approaching her, he sunk his teeth into her shoulder. The heroine clenched her teeth in pain. He began to kiss her, but these were not the kisses she dreamed of. In previous times, although he could not think clearly, there was so much tenderness in his actions. But now he was rude and unbearable. This time is not like that at all. The feeling that he was overcome by unbearable torment. What is happening now is not at all beautiful, not trembling, but sheer torment. She scolded herself for coming, because even when she heard the maids talking, it was clear that Thomas was in a bad mood, and she became the person on whom he could lose his temper. How could she forget about his words after the first night that since she decided to play with him, he would play with her? Therefore, being conscious, why should he be gentle with her? Amanda felt pain, both physical and mental, and he simply turned and left, leaving her wet in torn clothes and in a difficult emotional state lying on the floor of the shower. A little later, the heroine called Betty and asked her not to ask anything, take her things and come to room 1001. Seeing her friend in this state, she realized that something had happened between her and Thomas. Amanda asked if Betty had told anyone from the crew about where she was going and why. In response to her friend's attempts to find out something, the main character said that it was already late, and it was time to go to bed. The next morning, Amanda developed a fever. Betty convinced her friend to call the director and ask to postpone filming for a while, but the young actress refused. Today was her first day, and it was not good to delay the process. Besides, being a supporting actress, she should be an example for others. Moreover, she does not want anyone to find out about the incident. The king of the screen arrived on the set, and he saw Amanda, who looked sick. Betty continued to insist on asking for time off and quickly going to the hospital, since her condition was already quite serious. The entire crew had gathered, regardless of whether they were filming today or not. Everyone wanted to watch Amanda's first performance and decide whether she was suitable for the role. Only Thomas did not stay for the screening, but went to talk with the director. In a hurry, a young man came up and said that the director had asked me to tell him to cancel the shooting. Her co-star had some urgent business and had to return to the city, so while everything was canceled for approximately 5 days, she would be informed in advance. Amanda exhaled. This time she was lucky, despite the fact that they reported about it half a day later. Returning home, she didn't even have the strength to change clothes. The girl fell asleep and had a long dream. How 10 years ago she was happy with her parents then, after their death. How she spent her childhood in her cousin's house. Then school, university, and her long journey of secret love for the young man she met in the rain. Having come to her senses, the girl went down and saw her aunt, who was busy around the house. Amanda asked what happened, why the woman was there. She replied that Mr. Walker asked her to keep an eye on the house while they were both filming, and the house was empty. Auntie said that breakfast was ready and offered to eat. Once again, the young wife could not understand what was in her husband's soul, why he suddenly found a reason to keep an eye on the house. In the evening, he himself arrived at the mansion. From the doorway, he asked how Miss Baker was feeling. The woman said that it was much better. The gentleman interrupted her, saying not to let her eat the dumplings. The refrigerator was full of food, to which he heard that the soup had already been prepared. Entering the room, he put down the papers and ordered them to sign. Amanda saw the contract of the company's face. This company is world-class. All representatives have enormous authority, which is why Thomas gives representation to her. Seeing the girl's confusion, the young man asked if she didn't want to be the face of the company. He said that she deserved it. This is the payment for that evening. How painful it was to hear such words, one hastily spoken reason, and now there is no end to the humiliation. In his heart, she has already become a corrupt woman. If I had known that everything would turn out this way, I would never have blurted out about filming the series the first time. And he continued to finish her off, asking if she was unhappy with the reward. Looking at him, she thought that she had loved him for 13 years. But she had already exhausted all her strength, hiding her feelings. The most unbearable thing in life is that he stands in front of her, and she does not dare say a word about her feelings. The start of filming was announced on set. Today, Amanda is in good shape and has fully recovered from her illness. Now she has her first scene together with Thomas. In this film, her character is secretly in love with the character played by the king of the screen, and as a result of her intrigues, he is forced to break up with his girlfriend. In today's scene, the hero's girlfriend goes far away, leaving him, and he decides to get drunk out of grief. And Amanda's character comes to console him. Those watching were once again delighted with the actor's performance. It's not for nothing that he is called the king of the screen. He instantly gets into the role and accurately conveys emotions, as if they were his real ones. Just before the exit, Jessica approached Amanda, saying that the scene should be very beautiful if only the young actress could withstand the high bar that Walker had set. Ignoring her competitor's words, Miss Baker went to the site. Having hugged the guy, she began to ask him not to drink. The girl looked at him with eyes full of love. She cannot show even the smallest part of her feelings in life. But now she is playing a role, so she can give vent to everything that she has been accumulating all these years. Unable to hold back her tears, Amanda asked why the one he loved was not her. Pressed against his chest, she thought that only now could she safely be next to him. Thomas, clenching his will into a fist, also tried not to betray his feelings for his beloved, who was now so close. The entire set watched the magnificent performance of the young actors, and only Thomas and Amanda each knew in their souls that this was not a game, but reality. The scene was filmed in the first take. As soon as the word cut was heard, the girl recoiled from her partner. She timidly thanked her partner for the scene. He scolded himself for imagining things up again. Every time he tells himself that these are just fantasies, but how he wants to be wrong, With bitterness in his soul, he stood up and left without answering anything. The director recognized the young actress's performance as incomparable, which he had no doubt about, because nothing less was expected from partner Thomas Walker. Despite the fact that the girl appeared suddenly, her performance was simply bombastic. Colleagues whispered about how unexpectedly the newcomer's performance turned out to be so good. The king of the screen said that Amanda would put all her strength into this role, and he did not lie. A feeling of envy and injustice overwhelmed Miss Harris. How dare some young starlet cross her path? She will not allow it. Betty warned Amanda that in the next scene they were playing an argument with the king of the screen. The heroine would be wearing very high heels, so she should be careful. "Everything is ready, camera, motor, let's go." The girl held the guy's hand and asked him to listen to her, and he shouted that he didn't want to see her anymore, and pulling back his hand, began to leave. At that moment, the girl's leg sprained, and she flew straight into the pool. Thomas turned towards the screams of people and saw Amanda in the water. In an instant, he remembered that she could not swim, and he rushed after her. He had already pulled her out of the water when the others ran up. The girl was unconscious. Thomas had never experienced such fear, seeing that his beloved was not coming to her senses. He bent down to perform artificial respiration, but when their lips were already very close, she suddenly said that because she loved him, she did such things. She said that this should not have happened and asked for forgiveness. Thomas looked at her and did not understand whether she was playing a role or speaking in reality. The director ordered not to stop filming. It turns out that this is not accidental, but she is simply playing a role. He slammed his fist on the floor next to the lying girl and didn't understand how she did this if she couldn't swim, and if he hadn't pulled her out, something terrible could have happened. At the moment when the young man was leaving, the director came running, telling Amanda about her excellent performance. Betty was also very scared when Amanda fell into the pool and asked her not to take such risks in the future, even for the sake of a role, to which the girl admitted that she did not fall on purpose, but because her heel broke. The girls wondered how the heel could break so suddenly. It was clearly someone's doing. The friend then said that when Amanda fell into the water, Thomas looked very worried when he saw it. Any ordinary person would definitely be numb with surprise, but without hesitation for a second, he rushed into the water. Their conversation was interrupted by Walker's stern voice, who said that next time she should discuss any amateur activities with him. The set is not a place for games. And if she wants to die, then let her do it somewhere else. The company doesn't need unnecessary problems. A devoted friend tried to explain everything, saying that Amanda did not want to jump into the water at all. Someone just broke her heel, and she was afraid that the scene would be ruined. Thomas did not listen to the end and left, angering Betty with his attitude. He immediately ordered to bring today's filming. As he was leaving, he overheard a conversation in which his assistant apologized to Miss Harris for the fact that Mr. Walker would not be able to attend the party. Abruptly interfering in the conversation, the king of the screen said to tell him that he would be there. Jessica came up and asked the young man to sing with her rather than sit alone. Her sycophantic smile immediately disappeared when she heard in response that if she likes to seduce men, then let her go to a nightclub and not create a mess here. He turned to the director, saying that in the future the actors should behave normally. There is no need to build yourself into a hypocritical girl for one night. Otherwise, it will look more like a cheap soap opera. After which he left the party. Betty asked Amanda if she would go to the training camp. Producer Bernard Ray was going to invest in a new film and wanted to offer the role to the young actress, but the girl refused. Jessica ran past them. The friend remembered that she saw Harris leaving Amanda's dressing room. Most likely, it was she who ruined the shoes. Although the girl became an actress just for Thomas, she is not going to sit quietly on the sidelines. While walking behind Jessica, she overheard a conversation in which they were discussing the king of the screen, saying that he did not respect people at all. How could they tell Miss Harris that she was a one-night stand with so many people gathered? And in general, he's kind of strange today. Usually he doesn't stick his nose in at such song events. And when he does occasionally, he sits silently alone and ignores everyone who wants to talk to him. And today he answered very caustically. It is not known what the reason is, but this makes their souls uneasy. In the ladies' room, Amanda directly asked Jessica if the heel was her doing. She didn't deny it, and she suggested that now Miss Baker wants revenge. But Amanda said that she did not want revenge, but on the contrary, she wanted to thank her. After all, thanks to a broken heel, she was able to demonstrate her acting, gain recognition from the director and colleagues, and show what she is worth. Finally, Jessica asked the young starlet not to forget that she got this role through bed. Thomas gave instructions to tell the crew the schedule, but the assistant remembered that Miss Baker was now with Mr. Ray, who was going to offer her a role in the new film. At this time, Amanda was just giving a refusal, saying that her plans now did not include filming in a new film. A message from Thomas, where he briefly wrote to her to bring the script. From the moment of marriage until today, he never asked for anything. This is the first time. Approaching his door, she thought that he could not treat her like the last time. When I entered the room, I asked if anything had happened. He replied that he couldn't find his script, so he needed a copy to rehearse. The girl put down the printout and said goodbye, but he stopped her, telling her to sit down. She felt very awkward, and the guy, seeing this, offered water. Thanking her, Amanda greedily drank the entire mug in one gulp, but she refused the supplement, continuing to sit like an idol, afraid to move. Seeing the tense situation, the husband stood up and said that he would rehearse in another place. The girl breathed a sigh of relief. During these minutes, it seemed to her that she was about to have a nervous breakdown, and he didn't understand why she began to behave this way. Is it really so unpleasant for her to be around him that they can't even just sit together? Again and again, he remembered Mrs. Thompson's words that Amanda loved Christian, and they were engaged, and he should leave his dreams. Returning to the room, he found Amanda sleeping on the sofa. The guy carefully covered her. He sat down next to him, admiring the sweet girl. And then again the words sounded in his head that he owed his life to Christian, that an illegitimate child had no right to love a girl from such a family. Thomas stroked his beloved's hair, and when she moved, he quickly moved away. The girl fell asleep again, and when she woke up, she found herself covered. Was it really he who took care of her? The young man himself fell asleep in the office at the table. Amanda called out to him, but he did not hear. Then she came and covered him. He woke up from her touch. The main character, fearing a reaction, hastened to explain, saying that she had knocked. But since no one answered, she entered. The room was full of smoke. She opened it to ventilate, and so that he would not catch a cold, she covered him with a blanket. In response, he nodded and handed over the script. He thanked her. His voice sounded sincere. It's been 6 years since they just talked like that. The young man said that his company would soon sponsor a historical feature film, and he decided to give her the main role, so let him free up time. She remembered Jessica's words about getting a role through bed. She remembered that the past 3 times he made deals with her. Doesn't his offer today mean that he wants to make a 4th? Next will be the 5th, 6th, 7th, and so on all the time. She doesn't want to be only a corrupt woman in his heart forever, so she replied that she doesn't want to act in this film. When he asked why, she replied that she did not want to make a deal with him again. Does this mean she doesn't want to sleep with him anymore? He lost his temper again and started screaming, asking if he was nothing in her eyes. Did she really use him as a springboard to help her get into show business? And now, having found someone who will help her film, she wants to throw him out. 3 times she climbed into his bed, and now she wants to change him for another one. Throwing her on the bed and undressing as he went, he asked when she became so corrupt. Using force, the main character began to kiss the girl. At the same time, he continued to hurt her with words, saying that having acted in a couple of films, she shouldn't think that her wings had grown stronger, and only he would decide to give her a role or not, and how long she would stay in show business. Unable to resist any longer, Amanda said that she no longer wanted to rely on others, but only on herself. It turns out that Thompson was right when she said that he was unworthy of this girl, and the one he loved never wanted a relationship with him. He could never understand the reason why she was hiding so far from him, and only now everything became clear. Thomas was sure that relying only on himself was just a cover. In fact, the reason was that he could not give her anything, and she decided to get rid of the connection with him. Walker said that once they made a deal, he alone decides when to break it. She does not have that right. And don't worry, He won't spend her whole life on this. You just need to wait until he's had enough of it. Seeing Amanda, Betty realized that the scoundrel Thomas was involved again. The main character, through tears, said that she received from the company the main role in a historical film, and it was simply a dizzying success. Betty saw all her friend's pain and didn't know how she could help. She went into show business only because of Thomas, and she couldn't wrap her head around how such an honest person could keep her as a toy and throw her away as soon as he got tired of it. 13 long years have flown by like one day of love for him, but she does not know how much longer she can endure this love. Today is the birthday of Sarah Peterson, the actress who played the main role in the series. Amanda, deciding that Thomas would be there, politely refused, citing business. But the birthday girl asked to join and is even ready to reschedule the party. The Screen King passing by asked if forcing people was really a girl's hobby. After his words, Amanda said that she would be at the celebration. Approaching Thomas, Sarah noticed that his mood was changing, it seemed, because of one young lady, and not in a good way. Is it true that this young lady is Amanda Baker? Everything is clear here. When Miss Baker fell into the water, the king rushed into the water after her. Despite having known him for a long time, she had never seen him show love. According to her, during filming, Thomas looked so peaceful, sitting in his place, but his eyes sparkled and looked at the same point. I wonder why. And all because Amanda was sitting opposite, the king of the screen told his interlocutor not to fantasize. But Peterson continued to be sarcastic and asked why Mr. Walker was so angry, whether it was out of embarrassment. She noted that when Amanda was talking to her, she looked furtively at Thomas, and he, in turn, slammed the door so loudly to attract attention. The actress laughed, saying that she did not expect that the king of the screen could be so cute, which made the guy very angry. The next scene, the director stops filming, telling Thomas that the acting is not good enough. Footsteps were heard on the set over and over again, either because of the wrong position for a kiss or because the partner did not look at Amanda when kissing her. The group did not understand what was happening to the king. One scene took so long to film, like he's a newbie. The actor was given a 10-minute break, to which Thomas said to wait for the real kiss scene. What surprised everyone was that he had never agreed to a real kiss before. No matter how much the director asked him, even for an increase in the fee, Amanda will be the first to kiss the king of the screen. The director asked Miss Baker not to worry. It was just one little kiss. Sarah was delighted with the way Walker organized his plan, and even made a displeased grimace, as if he was unpleasant. Before the start of a new take, Thomas approached Amanda and told her that before the kiss, when he looked at her, she should look up at him in response, as it was described in the script. The girl nodded. The shooting began. Everyone froze in anticipation. This is the moment the actors were just talking about, when they stare into each other's eyes. Although he had kissed her many times, there had never been such a feeling. She saw something unusual in his eyes. Her heart instantly froze. There was deep love and deep pain in his gaze. Apparently, this is the skill of the king of the screen. Thomas thought that only in this scene could he release all his love without a trace. He said that as long as she is with him, everything is fine. Therefore, he asks her to never leave him. The director showed admiration for the king's performance, but Sarah sarcastically noted that his performance is always imbued with truth. Amanda was still very impressed. This scene was not a beautiful dream, but his tenderness and care were needed only for the shooting, and not for her. She went outside, and it was raining. Walker pulled up and told her to get in the car. To avoid driving in complete silence, Amanda asked if Thomas would go to Sarah's birthday party. The guy replied that he had one thing to do. As soon as he finished, he would immediately go there. The girl asked her to drop her off at the metro station, and he could go about his business. No matter what was happening now, every time Thomas occasionally talked to Amanda, he felt unspeakable joy and happiness. Little did he know that the girl came into show business because of him and would never have given her first time for the main role. Therefore, that night, her main goal was not a deal, but he convinced himself of this, and then, over and over again, the misunderstanding between them only grew, and the young husband could seek an excuse for himself in the fact that it was not he who betrayed his brother, but the girl who seduced him. A song played on the radio in which there were words that the most beautiful thing was not that rainy day, but the fact that we were hiding together under the eaves. Thomas asked what kind of song it was. The girl named the artist and said that it was a very old work. The king of the screen asked his fellow traveler if she liked rain. She nodded affirmatively and asked the same question. The main character said that he used to hate it, but after one incident, he fell in love with it. Amanda asked what exactly made him fall in love with rain, but the young man interrupted the conversation, saying that there was nothing to tell. During the conversation, they did not notice how they approached the house. Walker went out to see the girl off, and after a short silence, she timidly asked if he would come home today. Her question took her by surprise. Did she really want him back? No, this can't be. After he did so much to her, she can't want this. So Thomas said out loud that he wouldn't come back. But imagine his surprise when he saw tears on her face. Not understanding the reason for these tears, the guy took her face, looked into her eyes, and then hurried away. An au pair met her at the house and offered her dinner, but Amanda, citing fatigue, refused and went upstairs. The phone rang. It was Mr. Walker. He gave orders to make a ginger drink and take it upstairs. He also ordered the temperature on the air conditioner to be increased so that his wife would not catch a cold after the rain. And at the end, he added that the woman should not say that these were his orders. Left in the car, Thomas thought how difficult it was not to talk about his feelings. But there was no other way. In the secret place of his heart lies a great love that no one knows about. Grace suddenly appeared. Amanda did not know about her return to China. The girl invited her younger sister to a restaurant where she would introduce her to her future boyfriend. And who did the main character see there? Her surprise knew no bounds. Grace asked the young man about his food preferences, but he indifferently replied that he didn't care and that they should choose for themselves. The elder baker said that Thomas had already brought her to this restaurant, to which Walker, who did not share the girl's joy, noted that it was not he who invited her, but he and Christian met her that day, and her brother offered to come in and eat. Hearing about Christian, Grace remembered her sister's marriage and asked how they were after the wedding. She could not even think that Amanda's husband was actually the person who was sitting at the same table with them. In the ladies' room, the main character asked if she understood correctly that the future guy was Thomas, to which I heard how difficult everything was, since my school days, when all the girls were pining for him. She was one of them. For all these years, the handsome man never found a companion, and when she talked to him several times, she felt his interest. Their conversation was overheard by Thomas. He called out to Grace and asked her to leave. On the street, the young man said that he did not remember when he gave her even one hint of his interest, but if it was true, then he apologizes. In a commanding tone, he told me to put away my fantasies and stop talking this nonsense right and left. Grace asked why he did this. Was it really all because of the girl he liked? She screamed that so many years had passed and he was still alone, which means they couldn't be together with the one he loved for more than 10 years. It was time to abandon her. Thomas replied that for all these years, he had never even thought about abandoning her, and if he did, he would definitely not look at the one standing in front of him now. Baker wanted to know who had bewitched the guy like that. She asked him about it, but when leaving, Walker replied that she had no need to know. Having met with Amanda, the husband asked if she wanted to find out anything from him. Confused, the girl replied that no, which infuriated the young man. He was hurt by the fact that, having learned about a joint dinner with her sister, the young wife showed complete indifference. When the main character said that Grace was good, beautiful, and had an excellent figure, Walker was perplexed how she climbed into bed with him, and now she was praising her sister. He shouted that he was disgusted at the thought of how he could sleep with two sisters. Moreover, he does not have any feelings for the eldest. He considers her a selfish bitch who thinks only about her own desires. Finally, he casually asked his wife to come to him this evening. When asked why, he replied that they were connected and he needed to satisfy his needs, that is, to sleep with her. While getting dressed, the fictitious husband said to write SMS if his wife needed anything, but if not, then she should wait for the filming schedule from him. The poor girl again did not understand which of today's words was wrong and caused such rage in him. Now she had one desire: to give up everything. But she couldn't do it, because only the weak give up everything halfway. And besides, the Thompson family would have big problems. Jessica saw her in the hallway and was very interested in why Amanda was leaving Walker's room so late. Immediately, urgent news appeared on the network, which said that the actress of the series Conquering Time came out late at night from the room of the king of the screen. The recording was rapidly gaining likes, comments, and forwards.